And they want to come and they want to share part of their story, and they want to tell you what they see can be helpful in our programs. I'd like to introduce Ryan and Mindy Horde.
Hello, I'm Ryan. This is my wife, Mindy. This is something that's really new to us 6 months ago. If you would have told us that we would be here, we would have laughed, obviously. We both were patients at Rockberry over the summer. And found out about NAMI, met some really cool people there. I did the outpatient program. After coming out of there, we found NAMI and we started what was that called? What was the program?
Basics.
Yeah, the basic program, and did that, and just learning to live, work with each other, and like, changing our lifestyle, getting our head clear, and anyhow, it's not really my thing to do public speaking. I'm going to turn it over to my wife, who does this all the time.
You're doing great. He did great, didn't he?
Yeah.
I'll tell a little story about him and I. We both, our mental illness started, and our struggle in life started at a very young age. For me, at 4 years old, I remember feeling panic attacks and anxiety and depression and wanting to just go to sleep and not wake up. And so, I think at a 4-year-old's age, that becomes, that suicidal thoughts. I lived a very structured life, very controlled life, as did my husband, and we endured a lot of abuse mentally, physically, and emotionally. And, as a person, if any of you have dealt with that, you know that that does not feel comfortable, but if that's your normal, that just becomes your normal. And when you grow up and you finally get that freedom and your wings to fly, oftentimes you fly into the arms of somebody who has the same issues going on or is going to treat you the same way you didn't like, because that's normal. And all along, we were both labeled as bad children. He was a little more rebellious at a young age. Mine started when I left home at 15, and we were just kind of lost individuals. And we struggled and struggled and struggled and struggled. When we got together, I have a lot of codependency issues, which is part of what I was just recently diagnosed with, which is borderline personality disorder. And so I naturally will fix people and take the light off of myself because I'm the one who really needs saving. So I spent all this time trying to fix him. He wasn't ready. And that is one of the things that I tell everybody is you have to be ready. Everybody knows himself. There's things that probably make everybody that walks the face of this planet uncomfortable. And until you're ready and you're sick and tired of feeling that way, you just don't get the help. And a lot of it is because of the whole stigma. He's went to therapy, we went to therapy together. When we told a lot of people, some people, looked at us like we were weak, and especially if you have any marital issues, especially when you live in a small town, you're under scrutiny. And that's, and if you are people like us who have failed because of people not getting you because you just were different, we have a lot about us that we will put up a wall, and we're the crazy, wild child, but we always will be, because it's easier to keep people away from you if you already feel like an outcast. You give them a reason to, but after a while, it gets kind of lonely. And, we were two really broken people trying to figure life out, and I've noticed and patterns with people and people that I work with, because I work in personal relations basically with people every day. And I've noticed that it kind of seems like as a kid you just go on and on and on. You really don't get the choice to say anything. And then the teenager rebellion really hits. And if you have mental illness or if you just feel misunderstood, it gets really bad and you do crazy things. And that's when we turn to drugs and alcohol and really, activities that were not safe for us. And it was our way of acting out and coping. And as children, if you don't have an emotional support from family members or somebody there, that's what we turn to, because that's all that you have. But then you make a lot of bad decisions when you are under the influence of drugs or alcohol. And that leads to failure. Failure leads to low self-esteem, and you just kind of keep crashing. And that makes it really hard to talk to people. And then I found that people around 25 to 35, it's when they've just had enough. It's when people suffer mental breakdowns, when they end up in mental facilities, because it's just years and years of trauma, years of avoiding it, years of coping with things in unhealthy ways, which lead to more problems and more failures. And that's kind of where we were. We were two broken people because there was things from my past, from being adopted, things that he endured, trauma, the loss of his father, traumatic events that he had witnessed that just are not natural. And if you don't talk about it, if you don't have the support system, you can't get through it. It took a toll on our marriage. We ended up separated. There was a really scary incident that took a toll on our whole entire family of 7. And we've been working really hard to repair things. But because of that, you have to have a why. You have to have a reason to want to get better. And there is no better reason than our children. And when we finally woke up and saw the toll it was taking, we decided to get help. He went first, and he was diagnosed with PTSD, which I told him all along that is what I thought that he was suffering from. But I'm no psychiatrist. It just, he had all the classic symptoms. He went to a local psychiatrist in a little tiny town, and they diagnosed him with anger management. And I don't know if it's because he wasn't ready to fully open up with everything that was going on, or if this person was not really, didn't specialize in this, but it actually made things worse. And so it's one thing that I tell everybody is if you're going to find a therapist, find one that matches you and that you feel completely willing and to be open and honest with, and it's going to push you and dig deep and make you uncomfortable, and you have to be ready. And so, this went on and on and on and on, and he finally went to Rock Prairie, and once he got that diagnosis, they helped him understand that it was not his fault, and understand that, he has ADHD that came from as a child, that it did not make him any better or worse than anybody else. It didn't make him any less intelligent than anybody else. It's just his brain works differently, and he got the help. It helped with the anger management, because when you have all these pent up emotions, whether it's PTSD or with me, general anxiety disorder, BBD, depression, all these different things, you become angry because you're frustrated because you're alone. So he's gotten a handle on that. And then it was for me in that codependent relationship, once he finally got help, I kind of had this huge sigh of relief. I was able to get myself help. But at the same time, I wasn't able to help anybody else, and my whole life raveled apart. And he finally was on the road to health and encouraged me to go to Rock Prairie Behavioral Health. I had years and years and years and years of trauma starting from the day I was given up for adoption. So it was very extensive. I went in as inpatient, and it did wonders for me. And 90 days ago, I was a raging alcoholic, popped a bunch of pills, and got one step closer to suicide that I had never gotten to. And that's when I decided I needed to get help, because I didn't want my life to be that way. I didn't want this to keep affecting my children and affecting people. And I went in with a really bad attitude because I didn't want to live. I had the reason to live, but I didn't want to because I just felt hopeless. I didn't think that life was going to get me better. And they helped because I wanted help. And I will say that the biggest thing for anybody suffering with mental illness is to get support. And honestly, the people around from talking to so many people about this is if their family doesn't understand. So I'm hoping that because of programs like NAMI and people like me and the other people who are going to be speaking tonight, that families and the people that surround us are more aware of how serious this is. And this is no different than a physical illness like diabetes or cancer, and that you need to get treatment, and that support plays a huge part in this. Because just sitting one-on-one with a psychiatrist or a counselor is great. They help you work through things, and it's great to do it on a private level, but having the support from people is what really makes things work. I work in the health and fitness industry, and I'm telling you that when it comes to health and fitness and weight loss, having the support works. So I know that, and this has helped me on a whole new level. So once we left Rock Prairie, as I came in as an inpatient, we did an outpatient program, and we both found therapists on our own. We're working, separately. We still need the support, because one day a month or one day a week with a therapist isn't enough, because you have those struggles. And like Hakeem said on the video, no matter what, you're always going to struggle with it. It's one thing that I had to learn to accept that this is my life. This is what I have. I even asked my therapist that I saw, I see her every Thursday morning, I said, EPD is brought on by trauma, but is this something I'm going to deal with my whole entire life, or is it going to go away? Like, Ryan had PTSD, it seems to be, kind of gone. It's not it was part of a brain function and mental illness, but something that could be changed. And she said, you're always going to deal with this, but we will teach you how to cope with this. And so that's where NAMI comes in. So I'm really happy that on top of all the help that we received at Rock Prairie Behavioral Health, and finding people there who can relate to us, that we now have support groups. And I know a lot goes on in College Station through NAMI, but we also have it in Brenham where it's closer to me, and obviously it's all over the United States. So I hope that if you are somebody who is a Bailey member or is dealing with the same thing, that you make sure that you speak up and you share with other people, because in the last 90 days I have literally done a 180 with my life, and I never thought that I would go from swallowing tons of pills to inpatient, not just wanting to stay there forever or die, to going here and talking to people and helping them. And I have said, between Ryan and I, there's at least 20 people that I know of that have went to Rock Prairie for an assessment or across the United States have made an appointment with a therapist. So the thing is, your words do matter. They are heard. And if you give somebody the courage that they're not alone and that it's okay, and you can share with them your story about how NAMI or a therapy or a mental health facility helps you get help, I think that we'll be able to stamp this out over time. You think you're one person really does make a difference. So I'm happy to have NAMI in our life, and just that will keep me on the road to recovery, because my whole life is going to be about recovery.